the girl no one noticed. Sophia, the young promising and talented Igbo lady, woke up before the sun. She sat up slowly on her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling, breathing in and out as if she were preparing for something heavy. Today was her first day at Halifield College, a school everyone talked about, a school meant for important people, a school where names, accents, and family backgrounds mattered more than kindness. She stood up, folded her blanket neatly, and changed into her uniform. Sophia noticed it. She always did. She packed her bag carefully, arranging her books like they were fragile treasures. When she was done, she paused, resting her hands on the bag, whispering softly, "Please, let today be kind." Outside, the morning air was cool. The bicycle had seen better days, scratches on the body, a faint squeak in the chain, but it had never failed her. As she pedaled through the streets, luxury cars sped past her. Drivers barely glanced her way. Their windows were tinted, their music loud. Sophia tightened her grip on the handlebars, her skirt fluttering in the wind, her thoughts racing faster than her legs. What if they don't like me? What if I don't belong? Halifield College soon came into view. Tall gates, shining walls, a banner that read, "Excellence is our identity." Sophia slowed down, her heart pounded. Cars lined up at the entrance. Students stepped out laughing, phones raised, clothes expensive, drivers opened doors. Some parents kissed their children goodbye like royalty, sending princes and princesses into battle. Then Sophia arrived. The gatekeeper looked at her bicycle, then at her, confused. She forced a small smile and nodded politely before riding in. The moment she parked her bicycle and stepped down, everything changed. Conversations paused. Eyes turned. Silence fell, then broke into laughter. Sophia felt it before she heard it, the weight of judgment pressing against her chest. She kept her head down, pretending not to notice the stares burning into her back. But they had already decided who she was. A poor girl, a mistake. An outsider. Sophia adjusted her bag on her shoulder and took her first step into Halifield College, unaware that this single morning would rewrite her life forever. And just like that, the bullying began. Every wall gleamed as though it had never known dust. The floors reflected light so brightly that students could see their own reflections as they walked. Sophia stepped into the compound slowly, her footsteps hesitant, like someone walking into a place that didn't want her there. Around her, students moved with loud confidence. Laughter echoed freely. Designer bags swung carelessly over shoulders. Phones were raised, recording stories for social media. Proof that life here was expensive, effortless, and admired. Sophia tightened her grip on her school bag. She noticed how people spoke. Their accents were polished. Their jokes were loud and fearless. Their presence demanded attention. She felt small. As she walked past a group of girls, their conversation dropped into whispers. One of them glanced at Sophia's shoes and smirked. Another nudged her friend and laughed under her breath. Sophia pretended not to hear. She told herself, maybe they're just curious. She told herself, maybe it will get better. But Halifield College had rules no one wrote down. Here, value was measured by what dropped you off at the gate. Here, respect was earned by brand names and family connections. Here, silence was mistaken for weakness. Sophia soon realized that she was different. No one asked her name. No one asked where she was from. No one offered help. Instead, she felt eyes follow her everywhere she went, judging, comparing, calculating. Her name sat there plainly, without decoration, without recognition. Sophia Okoye, just ink on paper. Behind her, laughter erupted again. Who even let people like this in? She wanted to turn around, but fear glued her feet to the ground. To learn to endure. To become something more. As the bell rang, students rushed past her in clusters, bumping into her without apology. Sophia stepped aside, pressing herself against the wall like she was trying to disappear into it. That was when she understood the truth. At Halifield College, kindness was optional, money was power, and people like her were expected to shrink. Sophia took a deep breath and followed the crowd into the building, unaware that some eyes were already watching her, not with curiosity, but with envy and cruelty, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And somewhere in that crowd, Tolani noticed her. The bicycle sat quietly where Sophia had parked it at the courtyard in the calm city of Lekki, Lagos, Nigeria. Leaning against the metal rack near the school gate, it looked harmless, almost invisible. But to the eyes of Halifield College, it was an offense. Not of transportation, but of judgment. She felt it first, laughter. Not the kind filled with joy, but the sharp, careless kind that slices through dignity. Sophia paused mid-step, her heart skipping as voices rose behind her. Wait, is that her own? One girl asked, disbelief dripping from her tone. No way, another replied. People still use bicycles? Sophia didn't turn around. She pretended she didn't hear, even though every word echoed loudly in her chest. Then a voice cut through the noise. Clear, confident. Tolani. She walked toward the bicycle slowly, like a queen inspecting something beneath her. Her perfectly polished shoes stopped inches away from the worn tires. She tilted her head, studying it, then laughed. A bicycle? She scoffed. At Halifield? Her friends gathered around, giggling. Maybe she couldn't afford transport. Or maybe her village is too far for Uber. Or maybe she's just brave enough to embarrass herself. The laughter grew louder. Sophia stood frozen several steps away. Her fingers curled tightly around the strap of her bag. Her chest felt heavy, like something was sitting on it. She wanted to explain. She wanted to say the bicycle was her choice, that it didn't define her, that she wasn't poor. But the words refused to come. Tolani wasn't done. She bent slightly and tapped the bell of the bicycle. Clink. The sound felt like a slap. Tolani said loudly, interesting. She turned toward Sophia then, finally meeting her eyes. Hey, bicycle girl, she called out. Is this your first time seeing rich people? The crowd went silent for half a second. Then laughter exploded. Sophia felt heat rush to her face. Her vision blurred, but she refused to cry. Yes, it's mine. Tolani laughed harder. Wow, confidence. I like that. But her eyes said otherwise. That day, the bicycle stopped being just a bicycle. A weaponed up by lunchtime, everyone knew. Bicycle girl. Village transport. Charity case. She hadn't even spoken to them. Yet they had already decided her worth. Outside, her bicycle stood where she left it. Silent, patient, loyal. Inside, Sophia's heart cracked quietly. Tolani, the Yoruba girl from Oyo State, did not need to shout to be heard. Her presence alone commanded attention. She walked through Halifield College like the hallways were built for her. Head high, shoulders back, laughter loud and careless. Teachers smiled when she spoke. Students stepped aside when she passed. Her name carried weight, and she knew it. Tolani came from money, from connections, from a family that donated buildings and sponsored events. And power had shaped her into someone who believed she was untouchable. Real audacity to come here like that. Her friends laughed eagerly, feeding off her energy. Did you see her shoes? One asked. Tolani smiled, satisfied. She loved the attention. In class, Sophia sat quietly at the back, her eyes focused on her notebook, trying to disappear, but Tolani noticed everything. She leaned across her desk and whispered loudly enough for others to hear. Does she even understand English? And that silence, worse than the laughter, told Tolani she could do whatever she wanted. By break time, Tolani had officially crowned Sophia as the school's new joke. Listen, from today, don't help her, she said. If she's lost, let her stay lost. She needs to know her level. Her friends nodded eagerly. Let's see how long she lasts. Sophia passed by and overheard everything. Her stomach twisted, her heart thumped painfully. She lowered her head and kept walking, but the words followed her like shadows. Tolani watched her go and laughed. By the end of the day, Sophia had been pushed aside in the hallway, mocked during group discussions, and ignored when she asked for help. Her words were enough, and the most painful part? Everyone else joined, because at Halifield College, it was safer to laugh with the queen than to stand with the victim. As Sophia walked out of school that day, Tolani leaned against a wall, watching her with a smirk. See you tomorrow, bicycle girl, she called out sweetly. Sophia said nothing. She mounted her bicycle and rode away slowly, tears blurring her path. Tolani turned to her friends. She won't last, she said confidently, but she was wrong. Because queens who rule with cruelty never see the storm growing quietly beneath them. By the second week of school in Lekki, Nigeria, the laughter no longer needed the cheerleader voice, Tolani. In the way eyes darted toward her, then away. In the way people leaned closer to each other, lowering their voices, but not low enough. I heard she got in through connections. Maybe she sleeps in one room with 10 people. Each rumor felt like a slap She couldn't return. She tried to focus on her studies. She really did. She buried herself in books, in notes, in the quiet world where numbers and words made sense. But even there, the whispers followed her. Sometimes they came with laughter. In the library, she sat alone at the far corner, hoping the silence would protect her. But two girls passed by and giggled. Imagine struggling like that, and still trying to be proud. Sophia stared at her book, the letters blurring as tears threatened to fall. Don't cry here, she told herself. Don't give them that. During group assignments, no one chose her. Chairs shifted away from her desk. When the teacher finally assigned her to a group, her teammates sighed loudly. I'll do my part, she said softly. She smells. She's dirty. She probably can't even pay her fees. One afternoon, Sophia overheard Tolani laughing near the stairs. Honestly, I pity her, Tolani said mockingly. Sophia froze halfway up the stairs, her chest tightening. That word, poverty, wrapped around her like chains. That night, as she rode her bicycle home, the streets were quieter than usual. The wind brushed against her cheeks, carrying away the voices, but not the pain. She reached home, locked her door, and finally allowed herself to cry. Not loudly, just enough to survive. They were becoming her reality. And slowly, they were breaking her. The Legos classroom was supposed to be safe. A place for learning. A place where everyone mattered. That morning, she arrived early and took her seat at the back, hoping invisibility would protect her. She opened her notebook neatly, aligning the pages like she was building a wall around herself. Students filed in loudly. Desks scraped the floor. Conversations bounced from corner to corner. Sophia felt it before it happened. The shift in the air. As the teacher began the lesson, Tolani leaned toward her friends, whispering and laughing. Sophia kept her eyes forward, her back stiff, pretending to copy notes. Then Tolani raised her hand. Yes, Tolani? Sir, she said, covering her nose dramatically. I don't know how to say this, but there's a very bad smell coming from this side. The room froze. Sophia's pen slipped from her fingers. The teacher frowned. What do you mean? Tolani glanced back at Sophia, then back to the class. I think it's coming from her. Then laughter erupted. Not nervous laughter. Not uncertain laughter. Cruel laughter. Sophia felt heat rush through her body. Her ears rang. She stood up shakily. I'm clean, she whispered. The laughter grew louder. The teacher cleared his throat, uncomfortable, but said nothing. Sophia sat back down slowly, her hands trembling so badly she had to grip the desk to steady them. Her vision blurred as tears filled her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of them. The rest of the class passed in a haze. Every cough sounded like laughter. Every whisper felt like an insult. When the bell rang, students rushed out, still laughing, still joking. Tolani walked past Sophia and leaned close. Sophia stayed behind after everyone left. She stared at the empty desks, her reflection faint on the polished floor. She touched her uniform, checking herself, doubting herself. For the first time, she wondered if maybe they were right. The lunch bell rang. For most students at Halifield College, Lekki, Nigeria, it was the happiest sound of the day, a break from lessons, a time for laughter, food, and freedom. For Sophia, it was the longest hour. She waited until the classroom was almost empty before standing up. Her stomach growled softly, but she ignored it. Hunger was easier to manage than embarrassment. The cafeteria was loud and bright. Groups formed instantly. Tables filled with chatter, trays heavy with food bought without thought. The smell of rice, chicken, and pastries filled the air. Sophia walked in slowly, clutching her small lunch pack. She scanned the room, searching for an empty seat, somewhere quiet, somewhere safe. Every table was full, but not really. As she approached one, a girl glanced at her, then whispered to her friends. Someone laughed loudly. Sophia stopped. She turned away. At the far end of the cafeteria, she found a small table near the wall. One chair. Alone, she sat down carefully, like she was afraid to disturb the air. She opened her lunch pack. Inside was simple food, neatly wrapped with care. Nothing fancy, nothing worth mocking, but she still felt exposed. She took a small bite. Laughter drifted from across the room. Sophia chewed slowly, forcing the food down as her throat tightened. Halfway through her meal, Tolani and her friends walked past her table. Tolani glanced at Sophia's food and smirked. Wow, she said loudly. People still eat like this?" Her friends laughed. She closed her lunch pack gently and stood up, leaving the cafeteria behind with her stomach still aching, not from hunger, but from shame. She spent the rest of lunch in the bathroom, sitting on the closed toilet seat, listening to her heartbeat echo in the silence. She stared at her reflection in the mirror. What did I do wrong? She wondered, and no answer came. When the bell rang again, Sophia washed her face, wiped her tears, and walked back to class. She returned to her seat. Alone, just like always. Chairs scraped the floor, bags were slung over shoulders. Laughter returned, loud and careless, as students poured out of the classrooms. Sophia waited. She always did. She stayed behind until the hallways emptied, until the noise faded into echoes. It was easier that way. Less eyes, less judgment. When she finally stepped outside, the late afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the school compound. The same gate, the same bicycle. Her bicycle.it stood where she had left it, quiet and patient, as if it was waiting only for her. Sophia walked toward it slowly. Around her, luxury cars arrived. Drivers opened doors. Parents greeted their children with smiles and pride. Tolani climbed into a sleek black car, laughing loudly as the door closed behind her. Sophia looked away. She mounted her bicycle and began to ride. At first, she pedaled steadily, keeping her eyes on the road ahead. Bicycle girl. She doesn't belong. Poverty is a disease. Her vision blurred. Tears slipped down her cheeks, carried away by the wind before they could fall. She didn't bother wiping them away. She had cried too much to be ashamed anymore. The road stretched endlessly ahead. Each turn felt like another test of endurance. Her legs ached, but she kept pedaling, harder this time, as if speed could outrun the pain. She passed streets lined with high fences and security gates, then quieter roads where children played freely. No one noticed her, and no one cared. And that hurt almost as much as being laughed at. At a red light, she stopped. Her hands trembled on the handlebars. "Just survive," she whispered to herself. "Just survive today." The light turned green. She rode on. By the time she reached her street, the sun was almost gone. The sky burned orange and purple, beautiful and cruel at the same time. Because no matter how broken she felt, she still rode home. And that, though she didn't know it yet, was strength. Sophia's Lagos room was quiet now, bathed in the soft glow of a single lamp. Outside, the night was deep, the air still and calm, but inside, thoughts whirled like a storm. A soft knock came at the door. She looked up from her journal, quickly wiping the faint trace of tears from her cheeks. "Of course, Dad," she said softly. He stepped in, his presence filling the room. He sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to startle her. "Long day?" he asked, his voice more question than accusation. Sophia nodded, biting her lip. She didn't trust her voice to stay steady. Her father didn't need her to explain that he already knew. He had watched her for months. The silent mornings, the tears on her bicycle rides, the way she braced herself against laughter, whispers, and judgment. He sighed quietly, resting his hand on hers. She looked up, her curiosity mixing with fear. "I know what it feels like to be underestimated," he said. "And I know what it feels like to watch someone you love suffer quietly, trying to do everything right. I didn't raise you to be spoiled," he continued. "I didn't give you wealth to define who you are. I gave it to you so that when the world tried to make you small, you would already know your worth." He paused, letting the words sink in. "When your mother passed," he said softly, "I made a promise. A promise to her, and to you, that you would grow up strong, that you would understand humility before privilege, that you would be a person respected for your heart, not for your money." Tears threatened again, but Sophia blinked them back. "Every day, you ride that bicycle, you face their laughter, and you do it with your head held high," he said. "Even when it hurts, even when it's unfair. That is strength, that is courage. That is who you are." Sophia felt a lump in her throat. "Do you understand?" he asked gently. I think so," she whispered. "Good," he said. "Because someday, the people who mocked you, the people who laughed at you, the people who whispered behind your back, they will see what you always knew. They will see your strength. They will see your heart. And they will regret ever underestimating you." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the night. The city lights twinkled far in the distance, soft and beautiful. "I'm not saying it will be easy," he added, turning back to her. They will test you. They will try to break you. And there will be days when you feel like giving up. But remember this, your dignity, your patience, and your perseverance are more powerful than their laughter, more powerful than their insults, more powerful than fear. Sophia felt something inside her shift, a quiet fire igniting. Her father knelt beside her again, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. You are not their joke. You are not their victim. And one day, when the truth comes out, the same world that laughed at you will stand in silence, wishing they had been kinder. She looked at him, tears finally spilling over, but this time not from shame, not from fear, from understanding, from hope. I won't let them define me, she whispered. Her father smiled softly, brushing a stray hair from her face. I know you won't, that's why I have faith in you. And always remember this. You are stronger than the world knows, and more resilient than anyone could ever imagine. Sophia sat in the quiet of her room, feeling her father's words sink deep into her soul. She thought of the laughter, the whispers, the cafeteria, the classroom, and even Tolani's smirk. None of it mattered, not truly, not anymore, because she had a foundation that no one could shake. And somewhere deep inside, she realized that the world of Halifield College, its cruelty, its arrogance, its whispers, was preparing her for something bigger, something powerful. She opened her journal and wrote again, her hands steady this time. They think I am nothing. They think I am weak. They are wrong that I am Sophia Okoye. And one day, they will understand. Outside, the night was still. The girl they mocked, the girl they whispered about, the bicycle girl. She was no longer silent. She was ready. The day had finally come. Founders' Day at Halifield College, Lekki, Nigeria. For months, the school had prepared. Flags were hung along the grand hallways. Balloons floated near the entrance, reflecting sunlight like tiny stars. The banners read, Excellence, Leadership, and Legacy. Teachers fussed over seating arrangements. Students polished shoes, ironed uniforms, and rehearsed speeches. Parents arrived early, their luxury cars lining the drive like a parade of wealth. Sophia watched quietly from her bicycle, parked at the side as she always did. Her stomach twisted in nervous anticipation. For weeks, she had endured ridicule, whispers, and humiliation. Today was just another day, but somehow, she knew it would feel different. Inside the hall, the noise was overwhelming. Parents chatted loudly, praising their children, boasting about achievements, and displaying the prestige their wealth afforded. She wore her crown of confidence easily, moving through the crowd with a smile that dared anyone to challenge her. Absolutely perfect. Tolani smirked. She glanced around, searching for Sophia, and found her sitting quietly at the back, head bowed slightly, hands folded in her lap. Tolani's lips curled into a cruel smile. The principal stepped onto the stage. His voice echoed through the hall as he welcomed parents, students, and staff. Sophia's father had not yet arrived, and she felt a quiet pang of nervousness. And in the middle of it all, she felt small. She tried to focus on the ceremony, listening to speeches, clapping politely when expected, and praying the day would pass without incident. Then, it happened. The first black SUV arrived. Security stepped out immediately, scanning the crowd. Parents and students murmured nervously. Phones were raised, capturing every moment. Whispers spread quickly through the hall. Who is that? VIP guest. Minister. No, billionaire. Sophia's heart raced. Something told her this was the moment her life, her carefully hidden world, is about to collide with Halifield College. The principal hesitated, visibly nervous. The convoy moved closer to the stage. One man stepped forward, tall, imposing, calm, powerful, and then he spoke. Good morning, Halifield College. The hall fell completely silent. All eyes turned toward the man on the stage. My name is Mr. Alexander Okoye, he said. His voice was steady, commanding, yet warm. I have come today, not as a sponsor, not as a guest, but as a father. Every student froze. Parents exchanged confused glances. And Sophia, her heart pounding, felt the world narrow until all she could see was him. Her father's eyes scanned the crowd, and then they found her. Sophia's breath caught. He smiled faintly, a mix of pride and sorrow, as he continued. My daughter has been attending this school for months. She has ridden her bicycle to these gates every morning, faced ridicule, endured humiliation, and yet she has never faltered in her pursuit of knowledge and dignity. The silence in the hall grew heavier with each word. Parents stared. Teachers exchanged hurried whispers. And Tolani's smile disappeared instantly, replaced with confusion, fear, and something like regret. "My daughter is Sophia Okoye," he said finally, letting the name hang in the air. The hall seemed to shatter. Gasps echoed. Whispers turned to stunned silence. Some students whispered frantically, "Wait, that's Sophia? No, it can't be. Her father, he's the Alexander Okoye?" Sophia's knees trembled slightly, but she stood. Her head lifted. She met her father's gaze. A mix of relief, pride, and unspoken promise passed between them. For the first time, she felt safe. For the first time, the girl they had laughed at, mocked, whispered about, and humiliated was about to be seen for who she truly was. Laughter was replaced by shock. And Tolani, the self-proclaimed queen, realized with horror that the world she had ruled through cruelty was about to turn against her. Her whispers of judgment and disdain suddenly seemed trivial, small, and meaningless compared to the truth of Sophia's life. "Please, let us welcome Mr. Alexander Okoye and recognize the achievements and integrity of his daughter, Sophia." And as the crowd sat in stunned silence, Sophia felt a calm wash over her. She didn't need to argue. She didn't need to defend herself. She didn't need to revenge. Her father had spoken the truth, and the truth had weight. The girl who had been mocked, humiliated, and underestimated was finally stepping into the world as she truly was. The Halifield College branch principal finally cleared his throat, and as the crowd sat in stunned silence, Sophia felt a calm wash over her. She didn't need to argue. She didn't need to defend herself. She didn't need revenge. Her father had spoken the truth, and the truth had weight. Sophia's father, Mr. Alexander Okoye, stood tall on the stage, eyes scanning the crowd. Every word he spoke carried authority, warmth, and a quiet warning. "Do not underestimate my daughter." Sophia sat in her seat, trembling slightly, but not from fear. This was anticipation, the moment she had waited for in silence, through weeks of mockery and pain. The students who had laughed at her, Tolani and her clique, they were frozen. Their laughter had died in their throats. Eyes widened. Mouths opened slightly, then closed again as reality sank in. Slowly, confusion replaced confidence. Her friends whispered frantically among themselves. "Wait, that's her father? No, that can't be true. She's." Tolani's voice shook for the first time. This isn't possible." Sophia's father continued, voice steady and commanding. "My daughter has endured humiliation quietly. She has been mocked, whispered about, and underestimated by many in this very hall. And yet, she has never wavered in her dignity, never allowed cruelty to define her, and never lost sight of who she is." The crowd went completely silent. Parents exchanged shocked glances. Teachers shifted nervously. Even the hall's walls seemed to hold their breath. Then he said it. "My daughter is Sophia Okoye." The name hung in the air like a thunderclap. Students gasped. Parents murmured. Teachers stared in disbelief. Phones lifted to capture the moment. But even technology couldn't contain the raw shock in the room. Her friends looked at her, then at Sophia, then back at each other. Whispers rippled through the hall. "That's the Alexander Okoye? Her family, they're billionaires. She's rich, she's always been rich. Bicycle girl, the one we laughed at." The irony was almost unbearable. Those who had mocked, whispered, and humiliated Sophia were now confronted with the stark truth. The girl they thought was nothing had always been everything. Tolani's face went pale. Her carefully crafted confidence crumbled under the weight of reality. She opened her mouth, trying to speak, but the words wouldn't come. She glanced at her friends, hoping for an escape. But there was none. Sophia stood slowly, meeting her father's gaze. Her hands were steady now, her spine straight, her head high. The courage that had been forged through weeks of ridicule now radiated from her. Her father smiled faintly, proud and protective, as he continued. "The world often judges people by what they see on the surface. It assumes wealth equals arrogance, poverty equals weakness. But my daughter has taught us all a lesson. Character is far greater than status, and humility is stronger than cruelty." Tolani felt a lump form in her throat. She had ruled Halifield College through laughter and fear, but that power meant nothing now. The students who had mocked Sophia, those who had whispered, laughed, and shoved her aside, now looked small, exposed, and ashamed. Some avoided eye contact. Others whispered hurried apologies that no one truly heard. The principal cleared his throat, finally stepping in. Respect is earned through integrity, not wealth. And cruelty will always reveal the weakness of those who practice it. Sophia's father extended a hand toward her. Come, Sophia. She walked forward slowly, every eye upon her. This was the moment of triumph, not revenge, but recognition. Tolani shrank back, her once proud posture replaced with disbelief. She had mocked the wrong person. She had underestimated the quiet girl she thought she could break. Sophia stood beside her father, feeling an overwhelming mix of relief, pride, and quiet vindication. The girl who had been humiliated, ignored, and whispered about was finally being seen. The hall was silent. The laughter, the mockery, the whispers, all replaced with awe, shock, and a dawning realization of the truth. For the first time, Sophia was no longer invisible. And for the first time, those who had ridiculed her felt the weight of their arrogance. Tolani's eyes met Sophia's, that a flicker of fear, regret, and disbelief passed across her face. The self-proclaimed queen of Halifield College had finally met someone she could not control. The girl they laughed at, the bicycle girl, was unstoppable. The hall was electric with whispers, confusion, and disbelief. Sophia's father, Mr. Alexander Okoye, stood tall on the stage, eyes scanning the crowd. Every word he spoke carried authority, warmth, and a quiet warning. Do not underestimate my daughter. Sophia sat in her seat, trembling slightly, but not from fear. This was anticipation, the moment she had waited for in silence, through weeks of mockery and pain. The students who had laughed at her, Tolani and her clique, they were frozen. Their laughter had died in their throats. Eyes widened. Mouths opened slightly, then closed again as reality sank in. Tolani's perfectly composed smile faltered. Slowly, confusion replaced confidence. This isn't possible. Sophia's father continued, voice steady and commanding. My daughter has endured humiliation quietly. She has been mocked, whispered about, and underestimated by many in this very hall. And yet, she has never wavered in her dignity, never allowed cruelty to define her, and never lost sight of who she is. The crowd went completely silent. Parents exchanged shocked glances. Teachers shifted nervously. Even the hall's walls seemed to hold their breath. Then he said it. My daughter is Sophia Okoye. The name hung in the air like a thunderclap. Students gasped. Parents murmured. Teachers stared in disbelief. Phones lifted to capture the moment. But even technology couldn't contain the raw shock in the room. Tolani froze mid-step, her mouth opening, but no words came. Her friends looked at her, then at Sophia, then back at each other. Panic replaced arrogance. Their carefully maintained aura of power evaporated in an instant. The irony was almost unbearable. Those who had mocked, whispered, and humiliated Sophia were now confronted with the stark truth. The girl they thought was nothing had always been everything. Tolani's face went pale. Her carefully crafted confidence crumbled under the weight of reality. She glanced at her friends, hoping for an escape. But there was none. Sophia stood slowly, meeting her father's gaze. Her hands were steady now, her spine straight, her head high. The courage that had been forged through weeks of ridicule now radiated from her. Her father smiled faintly, proud and protective, as he continued. The world often judges people by what they see on the surface. It assumes wealth equals arrogance, poverty equals weakness. But my daughter has taught us all a lesson. Character is far greater than status, and humility is stronger than cruelty. Tolani felt a lump form in her throat. She had ruled Halifield College through laughter and fear, but that power meant nothing now. The students who had mocked Sophia, those who had whispered, laughed, and shoved her aside, now looked small, exposed, and ashamed. Some avoided eye contact. Others whispered hurried apologies that no one truly heard. The principal cleared his throat, finally stepping in. Let this be a lesson to all of us. Respect is earned through integrity, not wealth. And cruelty will always reveal the weakness of those who practice it. Sophia's father extended a hand toward her. Come, Sophia. She walked forward slowly, every eye upon her. This was the moment of triumph. Not revenge, but recognition. She didn't need to speak. Her presence said everything. Tolani shrank back, her once proud posture replaced with disbelief. She had mocked the wrong person. She had underestimated the quiet girl she thought she could break. Sophia stood beside her father, feeling an overwhelming mix of relief, pride, and quiet vindication. The girl who had been humiliated, ignored, and whispered about was finally being seen. The hall was silent. For the first time, Sophia was no longer invisible. And for the first time, those who had ridiculed her felt the weight of their arrogance. Tolani's eyes met Sophia's, that a flicker of fear, regret, and disbelief passed across her face. The self-proclaimed queen of Halifield College had finally met someone she could not control. The halls of Halifield College, Lekki, Lagos, Nigeria, had never been the same. The whispers, the laughter, the casual cruelty, they had all vanished, replaced by a new reality. A reality that Sophia had quietly, patiently, and gracefully built. She walked through the corridors now not with fear, but with purpose. Every step carried strength. Every glance carried dignity. Students who had once mocked her stepped aside, not out of fear, but out of respect. Tolani, who had once ruled the school with arrogance, now walked with uncertainty. Her perfectly styled hair no longer gave her courage. Her clique no longer whispered fear into the ears of others. She had underestimated the quiet girl on the bicycle, and that mistake had changed everything. By mid-morning, Sophia's father's presence in the school had already left a lasting impression. Students who had been skeptical or indifferent now recognized her not just as the rich girl, but as a person of integrity, patience, and resilience. She didn't flaunt her wealth. She didn't boast. She simply existed. During lunch, Sophia sat at a table near the garden. Not alone, but with a few students who had admired her quietly, watched her endure, and now sought her friendship. Tolani approached cautiously, her friends trailing behind, unsure how to react. For the first time, she felt powerless. She tried to speak, tried to reclaim some shred of her former dominance. "Sophia, can we talk?" Tolani stammered, her voice shaking. Sophia looked at her calmly. Her expression was firm, unwavering. She didn't need to say anything. Her silence spoke volumes. Tolani's friends whispered nervously behind her. The arrogance and fearlessness that had once defined them had been replaced by regret and uncertainty. The head girl of the class, who had always watched Sophia quietly, stepped forward. "It's okay, Tolani. Maybe now you understand." Tolani's face went pale. She nodded slowly, realizing that the game she had played for weeks was over. Her mockery, her whispers, her cruel laughter, they no longer mattered. Teachers spoke to her with respect. Students greeted her politely. Later, in the garden, Sophia's father waited for her. "You've done well," he said softly, his pride evident. "Not because of wealth, not because of power, but because of the strength you carry inside." Sophia smiled quietly. "I didn't do it to be seen," she said, "and to know who I really am." Her father nodded. "And that, my daughter, is more powerful than any wealth or title." As the sun began to set over Halifield College, Sophia rode her bicycle home, not out of necessity, but by choice. Every turn of the wheel carried a sense of freedom and triumph. Every pedal stroke erased the shame, the laughter, and the whispers of the past. Students watched her ride past, some in awe, some in disbelief, all realizing that the girl they had mocked for weeks was now untouchable, not because she had wealth, but because she had endured, persisted, and remained true to herself. Tolani watched from a distance, unable to speak. She had learned the harsh truth. Cruelty may feel powerful, but humility, dignity, and patience are far stronger. Sophia didn't gloat. She didn't seek revenge. She simply lived in her truth, a truth that could no longer be denied. That night, at home, she wrote in her journal one final time. "I survived. I endured that. I am stronger than the world could ever make me feel. They laughed, they whispered, they tried to break me, but I am still me." And as the stars shone over the city, Sophia smiled. The girl on the bicycle, the one they had mocked, whispered about, and underestimated, had finally become untouchable. Not because she was rich, not because she had power,